If you've ever felt stressed and overwhelmed with how many things you need to get done, projects, goals, and tasks that are pulling your attention towards multiple directions, and you just wish you had more than 24 hours in a day to get everything done, and even though you are working 8, 10, or possibly 12 hours a day, it's just not enough to get all the work done that you want to get done. And then you see other people who work significantly less hours or the same amount of hours that you work and get significantly more impactful work done. In this video, I'll break down scientifically the best approach for you to get more impactful work done with less stress, and I'll explain scientifically why most people struggle to get any real work done and the root cause of it. And if you follow what I'm about to show you in this video, you'll most likely double your productivity, regain hours back into your calendar, and if you are specifically a business owner, you'll increase your profitability and reduce your costs because of the amount of resources you'll gain back by being more productive with your time. And real quick, I included the information in this video in a 14 free page PDF that also outlines my 3 years of experience coaching entrepreneurs on how you can get more done in 2 hours than most people do in a week. It's called the 2-Hour Man's Playbook. It's free and you can grab it by joining the email list below. Now, first, I want to go over the real reason why no one gets any work done and what's not to do. If there's one thing you should never do, it's multitasking. So there's this research paper testing people working on multiple goals at once and how they could manage multiple things. So they did the tests and they came to a conclusion that us humans, or the capabilities of our brains, because we have in our prefrontal cortex is split into two, we can only work or focus on 2 concurrent goals simultaneously. So that means when you add a third goal, your brain cannot manage that. And the best it could manage is 2 goals at once. And the findings of this research paper show that the human frontal function is limited to accurately driving the pursuit of 2 concurrent goals at one time, consistent with previously suggested inability of front polar functions to recursively compute cognitive branching. This capacity limit places a severe constraint bearing upon human higher cognition and may clarify several limitations in human decision-making and reasoning abilities, indicating that these regions in both hemispheres jointly control the serial execution of tasks rather than processing them independently. Translation: your brain, you have a prefrontal cortex, and for you to get work done, you use both sides of your prefrontal cortex to work on complex tasks. The best your brain can do is work on 2 complex tasks, and that splits it into 2 parts of your brain. But then, no matter what, you're still going to be less efficient than you were to work on one single task where you use both sides of your prefrontal cortex brain. I'm going to show you exactly how that looks like in a visual. All right, so the real reason why no one gets any real work done is because they multitask, and multitasking doesn't really work. Because according to that research paper, your brain can only manage 2 complex tasks at the same time, and it looks like so. So let's say this is goal A over here, and this is goal B. Your brain would split in half. One half of your brain will focus on goal A, one half of your brain will focus on goal B. And I'm talking about complex tasks. I'm not talking about walking and talking. These are simple tasks that are very easy. I'm talking about complex tasks that require your prefrontal cortex to fire and to execute, to do the thinking, to do the decision making, and to actually do real focus work. When you have multiple goals at once or 2 goals at once, your prefrontal cortex uses more energy. So this is the energy you need to use to juggle both of these tasks back and forth. So it is very cognitively demanding, and there's a lot of context switching, which basically makes you more drained and tired and stressed and overwhelmed. It's basically, your brain is not designed to focus on one goal. This is what happens when you focus on multiple goals. Now, ideally, what you want is you want to focus on one single task at a single time or one single goal and put your all into it and actually complete things. So let's say there are 3 goals or 3 different tasks you need to get done. This is task 1 over here. This is task 2, and this is task 3. Now, what would it look like if you were to focus on one single task? So if you were to focus on one single task, you'd use 100% of your brain on completion. So let me assume this task takes you 2 hours of real intense focus to complete. So all of these tasks take 2 hours to complete. 2 hours to complete. Okay, so if you focus on one single task, it'd be pretty straightforward. All you do is put 100% attention. So let's say you start filling up this task, you work 1 hour in, you're halfway in, and then 2 hours in, you complete this task. So that would be one task at a single time. Now, what happens if you do two tasks? What would happen is your brain would split it in half. So it would be 50%, 50-50, because that's the only thing your brain could do. And it's not actually 50-50, I'll show you exactly why. But let's assume it's 50-50. So what would happen is each task would take 2 hours. So let's say you work for 2 hours. So let's say 1 hour, you're working on this, or halfway done, and then on the next hour you work on this. So in 2 hours, you did not complete a single task, but you completed halfway of 2 tasks. So in terms of productivity, the person who does one single task is more productive because they already got a task done, so they delivered work. While person 2 who did 2 tasks hasn't completed work and they're still in progress. So this is more productive. Now, let's say you're doing 3 tasks, which makes it even worse, which is what most people do. So we'll just do the 2 tasks. So let's say you work in 2 tasks and then someone brings another task to your table and say, hey, I need you to get this done. This is urgent. So what happens is, I'm going to fill up the task 1, so you're halfway done from this. And then task 2, you put it on to the side because you can't really focus on 2 tasks because task 3 is a high priority. So what happens is, unless you continue working, you start working on task 3, and then for 2 hours, and then you complete task 1, and then you're halfway through task 3. So what happens is, you haven't completed 2 tasks, and you only completed 1 task, and that took you significantly longer. So while person 1 took 2 hours to complete task 1, it took you almost double that. It took you 4 hours to get task 1 because you put 2 hours here. Let's say we assume this guy started at the same time. So it took you 4 hours to complete this. 4 hours to complete, while this guy took 2 hours. And this guy, if he's not going to multitask, he's just going to bring in the next one. And he would have already completed task 2. So let's say we brought this one over here. So let's say we just added, let me just go ahead and copy this for you guys so you can see how it would look like. So let's say this is task 2, like so. This is task 2. You would just complete that task, like so. We would have just completed it in 4 hours. So in 4 hours, you would have, the fact that you're focused on one thing, you would have completed 2 tasks. While multitasking, you would have completed only 1 task and you would have completed halfway of these tasks. So it is way more efficient to focus and use your brain effectively to focus on one thing at a time. Now, how does this look like? What are the consequences? So it would look like this. So if you multitask and context switch, because you're not actually using your brain effectively, you're not locking in and completing things, you're gonna finish things significantly later. So let's say you start working at 8 a.m. and you work all the way to 8 p.m. Working on these 3 complex tasks, I'm assuming these tasks are complex and require deep focus. So deep focus task. So these deep focus tasks, because you're multitasking, you're just gonna hop from one task to other task. You're gonna complete this, you're gonna go here, you're gonna go here. So you're not actually going straight. You're just going back and forth, back and forth. You might work here, go up here, you go back here, down here, down here, down here, and so on. So in order for you to actually complete a task, it takes you significantly longer than you were if you were just to focus. So if you focus on one task instead of multitask, you lock in for 120 minutes or 2 hours, you get this task done. Task 2, let's say it takes 90 minutes. You lock in, you complete task 2. Task 3, let's say it takes 2 hours again, you lock in and you complete task 3. Now what happens, you could significantly reduce the amount of hours required to complete your work because you're not wasting resources in your brain. You multitasking waste so much time and resources that could be spent more wisely onto completing work and getting things done. So this is why multitasking is one of the worst ways to get more work done, and the best way is to actually focus and focus on one task at a time and actually use your brain efficiently. Now, the reason why this also doesn't work is because they actually did research on this, and they showed the correlation between how many projects you'd work and how much you lose based on context switching, and basically how much of your brain is actually available to get the work done. So if you were to work on one single task, you'd have 100% of your brain available to work on it. When you work on two projects or two big goals, you wouldn't have 100%, you'd have 40%, because 20% of it would be wasted just on managing tasks, just on trying to remember what you got done in task one and what you got done in task two, or like project one and project two. So just to manage those two projects, you're already losing 20%, because if we were to make it equal, it would be 50%, but you lose 20%. If you were to manage three, you'd lose 40%. If you're to manage four, you'd lose 60%. And if you're to manage five, you'd lose about 70%. And there's actual research papers showing this, showing the impact of task switching and work interruptions on working on multiple projects. So this is why multitasking is the reason why most people don't get any impactful work done. It's because they're just wasting their day hopping, context switching, working on task one, task two, task three, rather than actually putting their attention into getting work done and completing things. Now, if you want to learn how you could get more done in 2 hours than most people do in 8 hours, again, I created a free 14-page free PDF. It's called the 2-Hour Man's Playbook. It outlines 3 years of experience I've used to help entrepreneurs get more done in less time. So you can go ahead, join my email list, and get access to that for free. See you in the next one.